Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. And as you already can hear, my voice is not up to par to its normal volume or sexiness. Anyway, today it's all about one backdrop, one lighting. And that's one of the questions you get a lot. How do you approach a studio setup? What kind of backdrops do you buy? How many backdrops do you need? And what can you do with those backdrops? In my opinion, for a good studio, you always need one backdrop that's a little bit in the style of an old master. So with a vignette, it looks really nice and warm tints. You need one backdrop that's a little bit more out there. For example, graffiti or an old rustic wall. And I think you need one scenic backdrop. The nice thing about a scenic backdrop is, of course, that you can create all kinds of depth by adding props to that backdrop, like we've done in a recent workshop, and you will see that very soon in a video. Today I'm still using the ceramic kit, and I still want to give some attention to that. We always used the Sennheisers, and they were great, but you still need a big transmitter, a transmitter of course, in your pocket. And sometimes that doesn't feel right, or the cables get connected, and you get a lot of noise. This is much better. We just have one little device here, and in the box we actually, now the box is closed. The cable is a little bit too short, so let's disconnect it for now. There we have the box, and in the box you normally have the transmitter, 2 times, and 1 receiver. And in all honesty, it works like a charm. As you can hear, my voice sounds good. We have a little bit of compression on it now to give it a little bit less dynamic range. So, Digital Classroom, of course, isn't possible without our sponsors. So let's just introduce our sponsors very quickly. BenQ, of course, for the monitors. Now, if you're in the market for a new monitor, and you're in the European Union, just drop me an email and you can get a nice 10% discount. But the monitors are absolutely awesome. And we don't give away our dog Chewy, which you can hear in the backdrop now. Another company that's been with us from the start is actually Rogue. And Rogue is also a brand that we distribute in the Netherlands. So we know the brand very, very well. Another product that we use and that you see during Digital Classroom is, of course, Cascable. Now, a lot of people ask me like, hey, how do you shoot tethered? Well, I love to use Lightroom. I love to use Photoshop. I'm a huge Adobe advocate, of course. But in all honesty, when you're on location, a laptop can be a little bit troublesome, and shooting to an iPad is just absolutely great. So that's why we use Cascable. And that's also why you see that during the digital classrooms, because actually Wirecast is running on my MacBook. So I don't want to combine Wirecast, which is very power hungry, to Lightroom, and I don't want to disturb anything. And that's nice that you can now split those two between Cascable on the iPad and of course Lightroom on your desktop. Another company that also supports our work, and we support them, is Calibrite. Now, Calibrite is great for calibrating your monitor. You want to make sure that those colors are correct. You don't want to know how often it happens that I do a portfolio review online, and I just ask the photographer, did you calibrate your monitor? And then he or she asks me like, how do you mean, did you calibrate your monitor? And I go like, those images are really dark. I go like, yeah, a lot of people tell me that. And then they just change the calibration and it looks great. So make sure you always calibrate your monitor. Now you guys going like, hey, that's really difficult, that's really hard. And I'm here to tell you it's not. Because Calibrite just released their, let me introduce it, 1, 2, 3. Yes, the Calibrite 1, 2, 3. Now, what is the Calibrite Display 1, 2, 3? It's a very easy to use analyzer. Now, I am an ISF tech, so that means that I do high-end calibrations for the ISF, meaning for example, home theater, displays, projectors, and whatnot more. But that's totally different from what you do on a computer. On a computer, you just use the color analyzer, you use the software, you run the software, and everything goes automatically. It's actually pretty simple. But still, some people struggle with one. I don't want to buy an expensive analyzer. Well, they're about 100 to 200 euros. And as soon as I see software, I start to panic, and then I wonder, how do you use Lightroom and Photoshop? But okay, I want something that's simple, I want something that's fast, and I don't have any other demands than it just works. Well, that's the Display 1, 2, 3. It's super simple, it's super stripped down compared to the professional products. We tried it out. At least I gave it to Anna Week without telling her how it works. And a few minutes later, she called me up. Yeah, I calibrated my monitor. And I said, didn't you need me anything for settings or whatever? She said, no, everything was really easy. I go like, 1, 2, 3, done. And because this looks a little bit like a commercial, and it's not, there's another reason I show you this device. We're going to give one away. Here you go, Claudia. I'm just kidding. We're going to give it away to one of you guys. There's only one rule. You have to absolutely love Digital Classroom and my work. Okay, that's not really a rule. But you have to be in the Netherlands or, in a week, what was it, Belgium?
Yeah.
The Netherlands or Belgium. We're going to give it away, but we're not going to give it away for free. We're going to give it away for somebody that sends us a picture that shows why you absolutely need a color analyzer. And that sounds weird because I don't want to see bad images because that's easy, right? Make it really dark and send it into Frank, or send a black square in like, hey, do you like this image? Yeah, it's a little bit dark. I don't mean anything like that. I mean a picture where you literally can see all the colors, like bright colors, nice saturation. That's when you know you need a color analyzer because those colors are as vibrant as they can be. So you need a monitor that shows them as vibrant as they can be. So send those images to me in about 1 week. Let me discount this to, let's do Black Friday, right? Let's announce the winner on Black Friday. How's that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, we announced the winner on Black Friday. We're also going to start a competition, of course, on our social media. But if you see it via Digital Classroom, you're just a little bit earlier. And then, of course, we also have IQ Wire. Now, doing photo shoots in the studio is really nice, but you want to make sure that you have the direct connection to your model, to your client, and of course, to your work. Maybe you shoot for a cover and you want to make sure that everything is nicely fit inside that cover. So you need an overlay. It's a little bit hard to judge from that little screen on the back of your camera, right? So that's why you shoot tethered. Now, tethering can be done wireless. And I highly recommend not doing that unless you're in a situation where it doesn't really care if it takes a long time or if it doesn't work, or you can use a wire. Now, for years, the consensus was like, hey, you don't need anything else than 4.7 meters. I never agreed with this because I always used extension cables, and those are terrible because you can lose connection and it doesn't work well. So we decided to go for IQ Wire. And IQ Wire is awesome. One, they're the fastest on the market because they have IntelliConnect and of course the boosters inline, but also they are available in 5, 10 and 15 meters without extension cables. So in other words, it's just one connection. And we have an awesome defense system with several breaking points like over here, and of course a slider underneath and protection here. So this is like one of those solutions where you go like, yeah, this is complete. It's not one part, that's nice. It's one whole system, an ecosystem for tethering. And finally, the backdrops you see is, of course, Click backdrops. We're also a distributor for those in the Netherlands, like IQ Wire and Rogue. Now, backdrops are really important. And why? Because they are the mood makers of your photo shoot. Those are the things that you have in the back. And I already hear you guys going, hey, you can do that in Photoshop nowadays, Frank. Grow up. Yeah, well, no, not really. One, I don't want to grow up. And secondly, you can't really create those in Photoshop. And you know why? If you have a proper backdrop and you have proper lighting, those two interact with each other. You have your graduations on the backdrop from your, literally from your shadows. You have the color bleed on your backdrops. You have the light bleed. You have the reflection from your model on the backdrop. If you use the backdrop just as a sandwich, in other words, backdrop, model, yes, you can do that in Photoshop. Be my guest, because, well, then you can use all the backdrops you want. But if you really want something that looks organic, that looks real, that's when you start using the real backdrops. Now, we have two different materials. Vinyl, and a lot of people ask us about that, so that's why this is not really a commercial part, it's more like an explanation. So we have vinyl, and vinyl is great for sharper prints, vibrant colors. The thing about vinyl is that if you buy it, you have to be really careful. You have to buy it from a brand that's designed for that use. Now, why do I tell you this? There are a lot of manufacturers that print backdrops on normal vinyl. The problem is that if you clean it with a wet cloth, it will actually take the print off. You need something where the paint is inside the material. And this is where Click Backdrops uses that. That's why the backdrops are a little bit more expensive, because they use a lot more ink, because it literally is inside the material. The other material I use a lot, and today we're going to use vinyl, by the way, is Pro Fabric. Now, Pro Fabric mimics the old canvas cloths, and you know those from the studio, like Elevante. And well, if you are in the neighborhood of 5,000 euros per backdrop, then you can buy something like that. But our Pro Fabric backdrops are actually just the same when you photograph it. They have that nice warmth. And it sounds a little bit weird, right? How can a backdrop be warm? Or how can a backdrop be cold? That's when you start shooting with them, you will finally figure that one out. Just look at my portfolio and you can probably see which one are, well, Pro Fabric and which ones are vinyl, because the vinyls just burn out a little bit more. So today we're going to use, of course, the vinyl backdrop. Now, for this backdrop, I choose something that's very neutral with a white base. Now, why do I choose something with a white base? I'm limiting myself today because I'm still very much under the influence of the flu, as you can hear in my voice. I'm pumped up with medicine, so if my voice sometimes doesn't make any sense, or my words go like Pippi Langkous, don't worry about it. That's all the medication talking. So today I can make every mistake I want because I can't be blamed. Right, Anouk?
Yes.
I mean, right. So, we also changed some other stuff, so I'm very curious to see how this one goes. We have a new MacBook, the MacBook M4 Pro. In all honesty, I had an M1 Pro and I didn't want to upgrade, but the screen was the reason for me to upgrade. So I would love to hear from you guys if you also saw the new screen and were totally blown away by it. I did a review on my website, frankdorff.com. So when you go there, you can actually see that we used a flashlight on the new screen and on the old screen, and the difference is huge. So in all honesty, for the speed, you don't need to upgrade. The M1 Pro is great. I would never upgrade that machine without any doubt. But if you are in the market for a new screen, because you are doing a lot of work outside and you are just frustrated by those nasty reflections of those MacBooks, this one is much, much better. And we, of course, set Wirecast on 60 frames a second because we had a lot of drops frames the last episodes. So I want to make sure that it now works great. And up until now, I didn't see any errors in Wirecast, and that's the first time in a long time. And let's see if that works. So, yeah, are you ready, Claudia?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
You also look sick.
A little bit.
Yeah, we're all a little bit sick over here. We are
Under the weather.
we're under the weather, as they call it. And the weather in the Netherlands is really bad. So I have to drink a lot, so sorry for that. But we didn't want to cancel it. We already canceled the one for street and travel photography. That one will be done again in a few weeks, so don't worry. That one is still on the agenda. We'll just squeeze it somewhere in between. And I didn't want to cancel this one, so that's why my voice is a little bit bad. And when I cough, don't worry, put on your headphones. Let me see, there are already some questions. Oh, that would be nice. Just purchased a new BenQ monitor. Yeah, just always email me first. Does the new MacBook screen has an effect on your calibration? Yes, it does. I didn't test the old one, I didn't test the new MacBook with the glossy screen compared to the new one. But the new one just performed great after the calibration. You can also find that on the review on my blog. The thing is that you have to realize is when you have a highly reflective screen, it will always influence your calibration because you can't see what you're doing. So, for example, when we were going back from the UK on the boat, I did some retouching and there were no other seats available. So you sit on your spot. And there was this one point where I had to sit and you had all these reflections. And of course you can think like, hey, then you just turn the laptop a little bit, right? Yeah, that doesn't work. If there's a lot of lighting, for example, in the boat, there was a lot of lighting from the bar behind me. You saw all those reflections on the screen, which made retouching images absolutely impossible. So I just did the video. And even in the video, it was really hard to concentrate. With the new screen, that's totally gone. So if it would take a hit on your calibration, I would highly recommend doing it for the very simple reason you don't do color critical work on your laptop. That's when you use an external monitor. The laptop will bring me there 90% and I'm happy with that. But when I do color critical work or I have to deliver something to a client, I will always go home or in the studio, of course, connected to my monitor that I have hardware calibrated, in my case the BenQ, and check the colors. So I didn't test the new screen glossy next to the nano coating, but in all honesty, it looks really great. The nano coating did a great, perfect calibration, just as well as the old M1 Pro. So I think I can say that there's not a big difference in color space, but I could be totally wrong. So that's something for somebody else to test who actually has the glossy and the matte next to each other. I think we're going to go to the studio and see how long my voice will work, and then probably this will be a slightly shorter episode, about 1 hour or maybe something longer, but we'll see. Are you ready? Yes, you are. Yeah. Okay, so let's first see which backdrop we chose. And of course, be careful for Chewy. Okay, so we have this beautiful backdrop with a little bit...
Second, we are not on the right screen yet.
Oh, you're not on the right screen yet. Okay, and a week, so please do.
One,
Yes.
there we are, I think. Just a second.
Anouk, are you ready?
I like now. Yeah.
Okay.
You're on screen.
Okay, so we have this nice backdrop, and I really love that there's a structure in there. And today I can only use one backdrop. So I want to make sure that we have some different settings. And we're going to use different modifiers. I'm going to show you what it does with, for example, high contrast lighting, but also with more complex lighting, but also with very simple lighting. Now, we've done Digital Classroom, I think now for 10 seasons already. This is season 10. We do 10 episodes a year, so that means that we almost did 100 episodes. And that means that I can't do everything new and fresh. So we decided to don't do that. Don't try to do education, as we're going to teach you what a modifier does. We've done that a million times, or 100 times in this case. But we decided just do photo shoots, just see how you can be creative with stuff. And sometimes that means that stuff is repeated. Sometimes it means that stuff is new. And this is why you guys are there. In the chat, you can ask any question you want during the live broadcast. But when we're done with the live broadcast, leave comments below the video, because I read all the comments. And if I can, I will answer them directly, or we will incorporate it into a new digital classroom. So for the first setup, let's try the lantern. And the lantern is really nice. It's a Giotto strobe and a Giotto softbox. And the nice thing about a lantern is you can already see it's an omnidirectional or semi-omnidirectional light source. Now, normal softboxes are, of course, black on the sides, and that means that they block the light. This one isn't. Now, for this setup, it doesn't really make any difference because we're just going to aim it straight at our model. But as soon as we start using it on the sides, this is where this one will really give you more light on your backdrop. Also, when you place it between your model and your backdrop, with this one, it's a little bit easier to create, for example, an accent lighting. In a very short period of time, this softbox became one of my favorites when I need softer lighting. I still use the other ones, of course, but then with the grid to really focus that beam of light. This one is great for newborns, products, and whatnot more. Just an awesome softbox. Okay, Claudia, if you won't stand in front of our backdrop, please. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we love that outfit. Now, of course, we want to make sure that my first image is right? Because if you go to the dentist, you also don't want the dentist to start drilling and then ask you, was this the one? No, sir, it's on the other side. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the one? No, you want first take a picture, then you start to drill. And that's the same actually with photos. We don't take a picture at first. We want to make sure that the exposure is right. And that's why we use a tool called the light meter. Now, we all know a light meter, right? But hey, for guys who tuned in for the first time, let's explain the light meter very quickly. The light meter isn't that difficult. You just turn it on, and that's about it. Okay, that's a little bit of a joke. You turn it on, you hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit, in this case my model. You fire the strobe, and you get a reading of, in this case, 8.01. And that means that I'm at f8 and 1/10 of an f-stop. My strobes are adjustable in 1/3 of an f-stop, so I can do two things. I can move the strobe a little bit away to go to f8, or I can move it a little bit closer and go to f8.3, which is one click up from f8 on your camera, because your camera also works in thirds. In this case, I don't care. f8.1, that's fine. If you fire the strobe twice, it can be f8.0, or it can still be f8.1. As long as you don't do 100% critical work, that 1/10 of an f-stop, don't worry about it. That will be fine. Okay, so f8. And I love to shoot from a lower angle, and as you can see, I have my light set up just slightly above the camera, so I can shoot from a really low angle and still have nice light on the eyes of my model. Okay, let's take the first shot. This is without the strobe. Now, the reason I'm shooting without the strobe, the first image, is we want to make sure that there's no light in our studio. Why is that important? Did it ever happen to you that you shoot those images and you have this really nasty red dew over your model, or you have this really weird reflection and you don't know where it's coming from? Probably the lighting in your studio. So you want to make sure that it's dark. It's really no light hitting your sensor. And that's what we did now. So we established our base. Now we can turn on the receiver, or sorry, the transmitter. Focus on my model. And now the strobe will fire and I will immediately get the good image. Now, the nice thing about shooting it with a light meter and shooting it tethered is that you have that immediate communication with your model. You can see your image and you know the exposure is right. Now imagine this, somebody is already nervous, is in front of the camera, and the first thing you do is you shoot. Oh no, that's not right. You shoot again. Oh my God, how do I set up my camera? One moment. This is really annoying for a model because you start adjusting stuff, you start adjusting your camera, and the only thing the model thinks, I'm doing it wrong. Because you're a professional, right? The first image you take should be right. And if it doesn't, the first thing you do in a photo shoot is already tone down the energy. So the first image should be oomph, immediately right, as you can see here. Now, is the image awesome? I actually think it's really nice for the first one, but no, of course not. But it doesn't matter. It already looks nice. So my model looks at this image and goes like, oh, is that me? Wow, I look awesome, I look great. And that means that the energy immediately goes up. And that's great for a photo shoot. You need that energy in there. So let's take a few shots of this. Nice, love this. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of a problem on the sides. So that means that I can literally just move my camera here and choose for another backdrop. For example, like this. Okay, lower your arms and cross them. Oh, that's nice. Love that. Now I'm always a little bit tight in my cropping. So let's do a portrait. And a little bit out. Oh, I love this. That's nice. Okay, let's move here. Nice. Okay, keep it that way. Now, as you can see, by moving around my model, but also by just moving around from this side and that side, I'm already getting two different backdrops. So watch this. For example, when I shoot from here, and I just shoot a normal portrait, it will look like this. So I have that nice, darker side. When I look from this angle, I get a totally different look in my backdrop, as you can see. So this is why I love backdrops that are not even. That's the right word, even. I like backdrops that are a little bit different on each side. They look great when you shoot them from, for example, here. So if I take my step back and I include my whole model, I have something like this. But then as soon as you start moving towards your model and you start creeping in with that lens and taking those portraits, just by moving your angle, you can get it great. Now, one of the questions I always get from people is, where do you look for in the poses of a model? And that's the hands. Let's be totally honest. When you look at an image like this, I love the hand under the chest, but I don't like this. And the reason is very simple. This is not a normal pose. Try this, just for fun. Just stand like this and hold your hand like this. I dare you to do it for 15 minutes. You will literally just feel your wrist will start to hurt. So why should a model take a pose like this? It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't look natural. So make sure that when you see those triangles, you very gently just tell your model, you're not going to do it like this. Hey, Claudia, that looks like crap. Don't do that again. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is actually like, hey, Claudia, I love that pose with your hand under the chest. Can you relax the other hand a little bit? And actually, I'm already telling her that hand sucks. But I'm telling her very, very nicely. And that keeps that energy up. And that's why models love to work with photographers that are a little bit nicer. Nice. Just drop all the arms down after this pose. Nice. Oh, that's cool. Cool. I'm placing her a little bit more on the sides. And this gives you a really, I always want to say this, in Dutch we say het wringt. It's giving you tension because you don't want your model so close to the edge. And you know why it works? Because that backdrop on the other side is so dark. So you are literally just giving a little bit of a story. It's more like a movie. It's more like a film frame. If you want it more classical for photography, just stand on this side and make sure that you use your negative space correctly. And there you go. Totally different composition. Same backdrop. Okay. So now that we've done this, let's see what we can do with lighting, because this is nice lighting, but I really like the way that her face looks. It has that high fashion look, especially when she looks a little bit more arrogant. And this is something that you, without any doubt, can say to your model. Don't say it like this, you know you're arrogant. Don't do it like that. But it's no problem to tell your model very simply, oh, Claudia, I love the look. It's so powerful, and that fashion arrogance, you know, you really need that in fashion, that arrogant look like oomph. That's a totally different way of saying it. You give the same message, but it's totally packed in, like you can't misunderstand this. And this is something I do want to give a little bit of attention to nowadays. You have to be so careful in what you say and how you say it. What we think as normal when we look through the lens, and I look at my model and go like, that looks arrogant, awesome. Nowadays can be very easily interpreted as, he thinks I'm arrogant. No, it means this is awesome. So just tell it differently. Man, I love that look, that real fashion look, that arrogance. It's all those little things that make your photo shoot a little bit more successful. Right, Claudia?
Yes.
You like that more?
Mm-hmm.
You're arrogant that you like that more. Come on. You know what I mean. Okay, let's take this one off. And that's the nice thing about a Bowens mount on our Gigotos. It's really easy to take your modifiers off. And we're going to go for a really smaller one. So we went from the bigger one, we went to our brand new one. And this one I love so much. This is the so-called, talking about things that can be interpreted wrong. This is the Quickie. Yeah, I didn't think of that myself either. So anyway, this is the Quickie. And one of the things that I love about the Quickie is that you can easily set it up. I'm not going to show you that, you already saw that a million times, but it's actually how it's designed. Now, when you look at normal softboxes, one of the things you always have to look for is how is it emitting the light. So you follow the lines. Now, when you look at a lot of softboxes, you will find out that they emit the light like this. And that's a little bit the same as you have with your lens. If you have a wide angle lens, you spread out. If you have more like a longer lens, you create a more narrow look. And that's actually what happens here. Also with the grid. So that means that we have a very small beam of light, also narrowed down. Main advantage of something like this is you can use it in a small space, you can use it in a large space, but most of all, you can use it further away from your model and still hit a smaller area. And that means longer shadows, nicer light fall off than with a normal softbox. So when I want to make a high contrast image with a normal softbox and I want to narrow that beam, I'm using a grid, but I have to place the light close to my model for the very simple reason, otherwise more of the area is lit. When I use the Quickie, I can literally use more of that shadow fall off by placing the light slightly further away. Or, like we're going to do now, really close to our model. Because that's actually what I like. I hope that makes sense for you guys. But it's all about the beam of light, how wide or how narrow. So let's move this all the way here. Can you move a little bit that way? Thank you. A little bit more. Thank you. That's it. Okay. I'm going to aim it at my model. And one of the things that I always do is I find the heart of my softbox. The heart of the softbox is in the middle. And what I always do is I draw lines. In my mind, I draw a line like, okay, this is where I want my light to be hit. This is where I look at the sides and I know where the light is going to spread out. So in this case, I do want some light on my backdrop, but not too much. I want a nice framing light on my backdrop, like spreading around behind my model. When I talk about it, it already feels nice. Like when you talk about dinner, you get hungry. When I talk about lighting, I get excited and I want to shoot. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you excited for this one?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what I'm going to do yet. But it's going to be fun. Okay, let's see where I kept my light meter. If anybody has like these old things where you can just clap your hands and you hear a beep, I would love those. Okay. Hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. In most cases in the studio, that means aim it towards the light source. Okay, 8.09. And then this one I want a shallower depth of field. So I'm going for 1/16th power. 5.62. Okay, let's move it a little bit further away.
Somebody from California is watching.
Ah, how is the weather in California?
I think it's very early over there.
Why, is he
They're
grumpy?
9 hours ahead.
Okay, 5.6. Yep, 5.60. Perfect. Okay, and a slightly shallower depth of field. Let me get a little bit of a drink. Welke striplight? Oh, okay. So, okay, 5.6. Annemiek, I lost my connection to my screen. So can you turn the iPad around so I can see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Annemiek, can you turn the iPad? Don't touch. Yep, thank you. This is with the Quickie, and as you can see, this is a totally different look. Much more focused light. I think this is much nicer. And do remember, I'm not running any presets in the back. This is exactly, I shoot it, it comes in. The nice thing about a setup like this is that you can move around. So for example, I can stand here, have a really nice close-up of my model, and this is more flat lighting, or, and that's even cooler, I can walk all the way over here and have a more high contrast lighting. But what you can also do, and that's even better, is go really low and shoot almost into the light. Slightly higher. Claudia, can you look a little bit more forward? Yes, there we go. I can shoot something like this. And this is one of those shots that people always love when I do it. They go like, wow, that's awesome. And yes, it is. It is a great shot. On the other hand, I think it's time to introduce our second strobe for today. And the second strobe is always interesting, because the second strobe is that strobe that will give you the accent lighting, or it will give you the special effect. Now, the special effect I've done so many times with lens flares, I'm not going to do that now. What I want to do is I want to create a really nice Rembrandt lighting with a nice accent light on her jawbone. Jawbone? Yeah, jawbone, I think. Cheeks. Yes, don't cheat with your cheeks. So I'm going to place this a little bit more on the side. I'm going to ask my model to do one step forward. What you want to do with the Rembrandt lighting is you want to make sure that you have the triangle over here. Now, because there's so much lighting in the studio, I can't really see what I'm doing. So that means that I have to figure it out where I'm going. Normally in the studio, you use the modeling lights. You turn all the lighting in the studio off, and you just place it. You let your model move. You see that triangle, stop, that's it. Sometimes that's a little bit frustrating during live shows, as you can't really see your lighting setup. But over the years, somehow I'm very lucky, and most of the times when I set it up, it works. But it's always something that terrifies me during live shows and live broadcasts like these. Okay, let's turn this one on. Okay. Now, accent lighting is a little bit like cooking. Sometimes you like a little bit more, sometimes you like a little bit less, and sometimes you don't like it at all. But for now, let's hope that we like it. Okay, can you look down? Just stop, a little bit back. Perfect, that's it. Tilt your head like this. Nice. Okay, now I have a little bit too much on her face. So I'm gonna aim it slightly like this. I want some light there, not too little, certainly not too much, but just a kiss. And again, I have to do a few shots to get it right, because now it's way too bright. As you can see, this is not nice. So let's turn this down. And the eyes are a little bit too dark, so I'm going to ask my model to just lift her chin. There we go. Love it. And chin up a little bit more. And as you can see, you want, of course, two cat slides. Oops. That's the nice thing about IQ wire. It doesn't matter. You want a little bit more light in the eyes. So the light is now slightly up. Now, because the light is not in the frame and I still have a lot of room with my shadows, I'm going to lower the light to get a little bit more light in the eyes. There we go. Aim it towards my model. Now I can't shoot into the light anymore because it's too low. But for these kinds of setups, it will give you so much more light in the eyes, as you can see now. Look at those eyes. Boom, there they are. And that's totally different from the other one. Now there's not a lot of light on the sides, just enough. And now the thing is, just tilt your head like this. And now look at the difference. This is what a lot of people forget. Because as soon as she starts to tilt her head, this is where you can control that light over the whole area. So when she's right up, this part will block a lot of that lighting. As soon as she starts to tilt her head, that's where you get that nice edge light. So let's see if we can do it from the side. Softbox, of course, will be cloned out. As you can see here, the effect is nice, but it's not perfect. When we go from this side, it's too flat. Although I love, oh, there we go, one moment. I love the light in the back, but it just doesn't look right. But when you shoot it from here, and especially slightly lower, ooh, this really works. Chin up. Nice. And of course you can do a little bit wider. You see that vignetting is really harsh now on the backdrop, and that's something that I like. The lighting is really close, so we need to remove that later on in Photoshop, but that's very simple. You just select it and it's gone. Let's give a little bit more light on the backdrop. And we're going to change that. Now, I of course have one backdrop, and now it could be that you think it's a little bit too dark. It's the nice thing about strip lights. You can angle your strip light. So for example, if you want more light on the back, you can do it like this. And it will impact, of course, also your side lighting. So be careful. It will be a little bit more lit in. But the backdrop is now more open, as you can see here. So overall, nice strip light. Cool. What can you do more with it? Well, we still have that one backdrop. So what if we're not using the light conventionally, like from the side or from the front? What if we do it all the way from the top? So let's take our main light source. And can you stand against the backdrop? Go all the way up. That's the nice thing about the Quickie. Place it beside our model. Quickie? Oh, Quickie. I mean Quickie. Don't laugh.
It's because it's quick to set.
Yeah, I know, it's quick to set up. That's why it's called the Quickie. Now, if you count how many times we say Quickie during this workshop.
We have also something that calls
Slowy? Quickie? Yeah, we also have a Quickie. That's our backdrop system. That's really fast to assemble. That's called the Quickie. Again, let's meter the light. So now the light is coming from above. That's something completely different from what you normally see, of course. 5.64, so that means 5.6 on the camera, one click up, because the camera works in thirds. Now watch this. And this is so cool. As long as the model looks up, as he does, you get this really high contrast look. Now, this is something that I love to do for clients, especially with artists. Imagine a singer or a jazz musician, a little bit of smoke, some lighting from the back, a color, great shots. And the nice thing about this one is here you can literally just walk around your model and you can create stunning images in almost any location. From flat, you can also go, of course, from high up to down. Or, for example, from the sides down. And create something a little bit more, well, interesting, more engaging. Or you can just choose for the normal setup. You can cross your arms. There we go. A little bit like a Smoelenboek picture. Chin up, of course. That's the only thing with this setup. She has to look up or wear sunglasses. Yes. Great. Okay, you can change. And we're going to talk a little bit and show something new. We have something really exciting. Okay, we still have no errors. Oh, one. Okay, let me see what that is. Okay, that's no problem. Okay, let me switch over to our main camera for now. Now, as you guys probably know, many years ago, I did a show called Professional Imaging. And just before the Professional Imaging, and I got an email from somebody that said, hey, I'm a huge fan of your work. I'm going to meet you at Professional Imaging. And that person was Scott Kelby. Now, Scott has been a great guy over the years and was very important, of course, for the career that I choose and also, well, mastering the model shoot the book. And over the years, we became great friends. But, of course, Kelby 1 is the main platform for all the videos. I'm very proud that I was the first European instructor that was on the platform. But I'm also very proud that I'm still teaching on that platform. Of course, you still have the older videos, but a few years ago we did new videos. I think 2 years ago also. And watch this. And we have something new for you guys. It's been just released, and there we go.
We gonna take it, gonna take it, gonna take it.
You know that we do a lot with lighting in our work, right? And I love to find the contrast in my lighting. And it means that, well, high contrast lighting often means that I'm using several strobes. For example, one strobe from one side to light our model and one strobe from the other side to, for example, give an accent, lens flare or whatnot more. But there are also a lot of people that don't own two strobes, or maybe you're limited on your location and you can only use one strobe, right? So we thought it would be a great idea to go back to basics and start a class with using one strobe. But I thought, you know what? We can do a lot of different setups with just one strobe. But let's throw in a little bit of a curveball. Let's also talk about modifiers, what you can do with the modifiers and how you can create mood, contrast, and maybe in the end, add a second strobe to create some extra impact in your images. So join me in an adventure that's actually gonna start with just an open strobe and very, very harsh lighting. Are you ready for it?
Isn't that awesome? So my first class for Kelby 1, at that time still Kelby training, was actually about using one light strobe. And it wasn't really intended to be a one light class. It just happened like that, you know. It was the first time I was over there. I was really nervous and I didn't think I had it in me to do the classes that they wanted me to do. I actually declined, I think, 3 or 4 times. And they dragged me to America to do the classes. Well, a little bit overreacting, but you know what I mean, right? I was very, very nervous. And somehow, I don't know why, I just ended up with using mostly one strobe. So when Scott asked me like, hey, do you want to do a new class? And mainly, what is the topics that you want to do? And we actually both agreed that it would be great to do a class with one strobe. And I didn't want to repeat the first class. So the first class was a lot with special effects and more like, at that time, I knew how to use those strobes. But the knowledge, of course, over 15 years is much larger. So we decided to do a whole class with one strobe, but mostly explaining to you guys what you can do with each different modifier, but also with backdrops, with colors, how you can mix those two. What is the difference between a modifier? And we decided to do the whole class starting with very harsh light, open reflector, no reflector at all, to the biggest softbox we had in our studio and everything in between. So how do you angle your lighting? What do you look for in your lighting? It's a really great class. So if you're on Kelby 1, make sure to check it out. If you're not on Kelby 1, what? Why are you not on Kelby 1? Come on, you need to be on Kelby 1. Another thing, of course, while Claudia is addressing is in the Netherlands, there are a lot of trade shows, but a lot of those trade shows are not anymore available for the visitors. In other words, and they're gone. And one of the trade shows that's still there, of course, is Photo Fair, and I hope they still keep that running for the next few years. It's an awesome show. And you know, the thing about Photo Fair is they get it. One of the things that a lot of trade shows offer nowadays that is not that interesting for people is the trade show. We all know the news from the internet, right? Why do you go to a trade show? You go to a trade show to be inspired. You go to a trade show to talk with the experts. And you go to a trade show if you have any problems. Well, for the last part, I can already tell you that's not the trade shows anymore. If you have a problem with a product and you go to a trade show and you go, for example, to the manufacturer, you're very lucky if there's somebody there that knows the product a little bit. Most of the questions we ask are way too difficult for the people that are on a trade show. We can't talk with them very much due to loud noises, and it's always a disappointment. Getting new products, that's nice, because sometimes you miss a product online and you walk over a trade show and you see a new product. But most of all, you go to trade shows for the speakers, right? You want to be inspired. You want to have great inspiration. You want to have great ideas for your next photo shoot or retouching session or design session. And this is what Photo Fair does really well. They have a part where you can sell, where you can buy stuff, and we can sell stuff, of course. But most of all, it's arranged around workshops. And there's a new event, and it's in the Netherlands. So sorry, this will be in Dutch. But then you can hear me here speak Dutch a little bit. But this is an event. I will be there, and I believe it's November 30th, and I will do 2 different seminars there. One on street and travel photography, and one on styling for your photo shoot. Accompanied, of course, with photos, how I do it with lighting and how I build sets. And of course, a lot of the work from Nadine and me will be in there. So let me show you the trailer for the photo event. Hi, mijn naam is Frank Doorhoff en wel 30 november heb ik iets heel leuks. We hebben dan beeldkracht in Harderwijk. Nou, we weten allemaal dat beurzen natuurlijk hartstikke leuk zijn, maar waarvoor ga je eigenlijk naar een beurs? Om de nieuwe producten te bekijken? Nou, dat kunnen we tegenwoordig ook op internet zien. Je wil natuurlijk naar een beurs gaan om wat te leren, om nieuwe producten te zien. Dat is leuk, maar je wil voornamelijk geïnspireerd worden. Nou, Beeldkracht doet dat fantastisch. De hele dag door zijn er seminars en lezingen over straat- en reisfotografie, landschapsfotografie en natuurlijk ook modelfotografie. Alle punten van de fotografie worden behandeld. En wat ga ik die dag doen? Nou, ik ben aanwezig voor 2 verschillende seminars. De eerste gaat over styling binnen je fotoshoot en hoe je dat niet al te duur kan doen. Natuurlijk ook hoe je sets kan bouwen in je studio. Echt een fantastisch, leuke en informatieve seminar. Maar daarnaast, we reizen veel, is ook straat- en reisfotografie natuurlijk leuk. Dus ook daar hebben we een seminar over. Hoe kun je nou dingen net op een wat andere manier bekijken, waardoor je foto's van oké naar wauw gaan. 30 november, Harderwijk, Beeldkrachtfestival. De tickets kun je bestellen in de link hieronder. Tot dan! Now, of course, you will notice that there's no link underneath the video. For that one, I will highly recommend you guys just dropping me an email and I will send you the correct link, because it's actually a YouTube video that we created with the link underneath. So that's Beeldkracht, and I really think that's going to be a great show. So make sure you check that out. And for us, it's really close to our home, Harderwijk. Okay. Another thing that a lot of people ask me, and that's because I don't have my voice at the moment, so I'm going to show you a little bit more of the videos, is a portfolio review. Now, if you really want to progress in your photography, a portfolio review is something that I highly, highly recommend. And we also made a video for that because my voice is shot. So instead of telling you guys, we filmed it.
Hey guys, Frank here. Do you struggle with your photography? Do you have people looking at your images going like, yeah, I really like that shot, but, and you know, everything before but is BS, right? And you often get that response, but nobody can really tell you what's wrong with your images or why it doesn't just hit that nerve that you want. Why doesn't people get excited about your images like you do, right? Am I missing something? We all know those questions, right? I struggled with them a lot when I started out with photography. And I wish that I found somebody that did proper portfolio review. Not a portfolio review where you just burn to the ground or where you only get positive reviews. No, a proper portfolio review that looks at the technique, the lighting, the posing of your model, the expressions, the clothing, the styling, the backdrops, how you place your light, what kind of light shapers you use, but also about that other part that's really important, retouching. How do you retouch your images? What do you do with the skin? How far do you go? What do you do with colors? How do you bring mood in your images? How do you enhance that little lens flare that was there in that one image and isn't really nice in the other one? Well, if that sounds like magic, it isn't really. It's called a proper portfolio review. So we have a special offer for you guys. 10 images for 100 euros. So what do you get for 100 euros? I review your 10 finished images, but you also get to send in the raw files. And from a select amount of those images, I will do a proper retouch video, showing you everything that I would do with those images. And don't worry, you don't need to love the outcome. The fun thing is, if you see what somebody else does with your images, you can get some information from that and maybe get some elements where you go like, hey, I really like that one, I'm gonna do that in my retouching. So if you want to progress in your photography, if you have any questions, or if you struggle with why don't people like this image, our portfolio review is the perfect solution. 100 euros for 10 images, only a limited time available. So join us now for your portfolio review. Info below.
I have to press the right button, of course. Okay, let me see. No questions there. Okay, so for the next setup, same backdrop, we're going to experiment a little bit more with special effects. Now, one of the light sources that I love to use for really focused light is, of course, a snoot. Now, with the Rogue, we have the magnetic system and a really nice snoot. I'm going to show you that in a second. I'm actually going to show you that now. So our magnetic system is containing several items. You can have a grid to really narrow your light of beam. You can stack those grids. We have the omnidirectional dome to spread out the light. We have gels, correction gels, and of course creative gels. And one of my favorite accessories is the snoot. Now, when you use a snoot, the idea is to focus the light on your model. Now, you can buy different snoots online. You can also use grids with snoots to really narrow that beam of light. But when you're on location, you want to be fast, right? You want to make sure that everything fits in your pocket, preferably. And this is where this snoot really blew my mind, because this is how it should be done. This is setting 1. It spreads out the light nicely. It's not a really focused light. It's too harsh to use for most cases, but it's nice, especially for the backdrops. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. Step 1. This is where you can really focus and pinpoint the light on your model. Step 2, narrow the beam. Step 4, narrow the beam at all. So this is how I think a good photography accessory should be designed. And the products that we sell, a lot of people think like, hey, you sell the products because they ask you to. That's not the case in our instance. The products we sell are all one thing, they all have one thing in common. They're designed by photographers for photographers. The companies that we work for listen to the photographers. I don't want to work with a company that tells me this is the product. And when I tell them like, hey, if you change, no, Frank, we're not going to change anything. That's when I'm gone. Because they design it behind a desk. I use it in the studio or on location. And when something falls off because the magnets aren't strong enough, or if something leaks light because they didn't make everything nice seamless, or they only use 3 small tapes of Velcro, that's when a product can't be used in a professional setup. And how many of those products end up in your cupboard where you don't use it anymore for the very simple reason it falls off your strobes. The strobe doesn't fit nicely. It doesn't give the light quality that you want, or it just spreads the light everywhere, or it leaks light. You don't want that. And that's why we chose brands that are actually designed by photographers and they listen to the photographers. IQ Wire, the guy has been a gaffer boy, I believe, for how many years he worked for all the professional photographers, and then he saw all the problems and designed his own cable. And now he has a great company called IQ Wire. Rogue, I've been with them for many, many years. They always design products that work and that keep working and are really easy to use. Click backdrops, no reflections. One of the things that I hate about vinyl, reflections. We don't have them in the click backdrops. And we love the warmth of that Pro fabric. And all the brands that we support, including BenQ, Calibrite, those are the brands that we love to work with because they listen to the photographers. So this one we're going to use in a moment, but first I'm going to use an accessory that I always say, like, I didn't design it myself, but I did change a lot about the product. And that's they actually called it the Frank Dorhoff Flash Bender, which is a huge honor because that means that one of my products is being sold in stores worldwide. Isn't that awesome? I think I can die now. My life is complete, don't you think? I have my own product.
Definitely.
When your wife tells you, definitely, when you say, I think it's time, I don't think I'm going to eat at home today.
Oh, you're gonna take me out
I'm going to take you out, yes.
for dinner?
Oh, for dinner. Oh, yeah.
No, I'd rather eat at home.
Yeah, me too. Okay, as long as you don't kill me.
Of course not.
Yeah. Guys, if I'm not here tomorrow, you know why. Okay, This is the Frank Doro flash bender. Now, the flash bender can be used in many configurations. It can be used as a softbox, it can be used as a backdrop, it can be used as a bounce card. You can do a lot with it. But in my case, I often use it as our strip light. And the nice thing is it's clean everywhere, so it doesn't leak any light. It's closed up in every location. The only place where it leaks light is from the front. Now, one of the big disadvantages of normal softboxes is that you always have that hot spot in the center, right? And this is something that's really important to realize when you start buying your modifiers. A modifier, and often a softbox, let me just show you that with our Quickie. Where's the Quickie? It's still on there. Let me take that one off very quickly to show you. Annelie, can you remove this stand, please? Because I don't need this one anymore. Oh, Julia can... oh, wait a minute. Because my camera is there. Let me do it like this. So. Okay. So I'm going to go a little bit closer to the camera. So what you have to be careful for when you buy a softbox, of course you want to make sure that you have a grid for it. If you buy a softbox and there's no grid available, I would not buy that softbox because you want to be able to steer that light. Another thing is the mechanism to open it up and close it down. This is how we take off our speed ring. So we just click and the speed ring is off. So that's already really fast and handy. But it's also how fast can you disassemble a softbox. In our case, it's just press these two buttons and there you are. And of course, when you want to assemble it again, you simply do it like this. But that's not what I wanted to show you guys. So underneath our grid, you see a diffusion panel. Now, if you just use the softbox like this with one diffusion panel, you will have a big hot spot in the center. This will be very bright and the sides will be really, really dark. And you don't want that because, let's be honest, this is where the light goes in. This is the softbox. It's really narrow. It's not a big softbox where you can spread the light out. So you need something else. Inside the softbox, if you look carefully, you will see, and let me just connect it, I just turn it off. There's another diffusion panel. And this diffusion panel actually captures the light from the strobe that's right behind it and already spreads it out. And what it does, it creates a larger light source. One, it creates a softer light quality, and one, it creates it larger. Now, by using the two diffusion panels next to each other, you create a small spot, bigger spot, larger spot. And this is how you can literally light a whole softbox. Now, the cool thing comes now. You are not bound by law to use all two diffusions. Maybe you want to take everything off and just use it like this. Maybe not, I don't know. Depends on what you want. Maybe you also want to take the middle diffuser off. I would highly recommend against it, but maybe you want. Or maybe you want the middle diffusion off and you only want to use the front diffuser. They all give you different qualities of light. I can't stress it enough. If you buy a softbox or any light modification unit, make sure you test it out in many different ways. There is a reason there are many different accessories for a softbox, because they all shape the light. That's why they're called light shapers. So use them in many different configurations. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's only something that works or doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, don't do it again. Or maybe do it again when you need something like that. If you have a really ugly model and you don't want to shoot her again, maybe it's great to make shitty images. Right? No?
I don't know.
I don't know. I like all my models. Except you. You I really like. Okay. Let me see. Now, the nice thing about the Gigoto strobes, and this is also something, watch out for that when you buy strobes, is with normal speed lights, you can, of course, swivel the head. Now, if you have a heavy modifier like this one, I give you one advice. In most speed lights, you have two buttons on the side, and you can swivel the head the other way around. If you have a heavy modifier, a speed light will literally just do this and will flap forwards. If you lock the head in the opposite position, it can't do that anymore. It can only twist that way, and we don't do that. But then also, another thing is, when we use something like the flash bender, we want to be able to not just use it like this, but we also want to be able to twist it. Now, for normal speed lights, normal strobes, you need something called a boom stand. as you can see here. Now what does a boom stand do? A boom stand goes up and then goes vertical, or sorry, horizontal or angled. It doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want. You can also extend this. Now boom stand is pretty expensive. And these ones are awesome. These are the old Ellingrom ones, and I wish we had more of those, but they're not manufactured anymore. But another thing is, if you are limited to your stands, and look at this, it takes up a lot of space, and in a normal studio you may not have that space. It's very difficult to swivel, for example, a hybrid strobe, and that's why we use the pistol grips. So with the pistol grip, I don't really need a boom stand anymore. I still need it if I want to expand it. As you can see here, I can now just swivel very easily the head of my strobe. So let's place it like this. And I'm gonna place it next to my model. I think this time on, you move a little bit more that way. Perfect. And I'm gonna place it here. Oops, don't hit the model. It's one of the main rules in our studio. Don't hit Frank, don't hit the model. Okay. Oh, sounds perfect. Okay. Now let's flex the flash bender just a little bit. There we go. Follow the lines of the light. Nice. Okay. Light meter. .08, so that's almost 5.6. I'm going to go up one small click. Perfect, 5.6. Okay, now for a shot like this, it's high up, right? So we need something to make sure that the eyes aren't too dark, because when we shoot it without, can you look down? Without sunglasses. When you look down, you get something like this. And this is really terrible. This is way too dark in the face. It just doesn't look right. So now I'm going to ask my model to stand right against the backdrop, like lean against it, and I'll put on your sunglasses. And look at the difference that makes. And also still look down. Yeah, perfect. Somehow, when somebody wears sunglasses, our mind doesn't mind that it's dark. Sounds weird, right? But when you're outside and you're in the sun, what happens all the time with models? They squint, right? Peter Hurley loves that. The Peter Hurley squint. He can even make Chinese people squint, I heard. Did you hear that? Peter Hurley's a great friend of us and one of the best headshot photographers, so I can make jokes about that. And it's true. He always makes people squint. And why? Because that gives a nice look in an image. Of course, you don't want to do it like you are in the sun. There's a difference between the squint that Peter Hurley uses, which is very tiny, or the one when you go outside, you go like, oh man, that's bright. Because at that point, your whole face starts to contract, and you don't want that. So, outside, you can use sunglasses, or you can place the sun behind your model. But sunglasses are also cool. So what we do on on flea markets or secondhand stores, we always look for weird sunglasses. Now in this case, I think you brought your own, but I love the oily look. You remember Top Gun, right, in the past, those oily looks. But what happens when I look at her, go up a little bit, there we go. And look up. Look at how the light captures that. This gives me a lot more options. But also, because the flash bender is now on the side, I create a darker area. And this is where the flash bender is really interesting. Because as soon as I move it forward, because it's designed for speed lights, I can twist it on a normal hybrid strobe. So I can place it in corners and angles that you can normally never do with a softbox. Because you can't twist it in every single direction. And that we can do with the flash bender. And look at the difference. Because now you have that really high contrast look, almost like a Vogue look, I always say. It's that harsh quality of light.
Really outside.
Yeah, you can go front and look all the way up. A little bit down. There we go. Don't want the reflections of the flash bender itself. I can also go here and even shoot up in this case because I don't have that problem with the softbox anymore. I can shoot all the way aside. This is the nice thing with the flash bender, because it's so small. You can just place it everywhere you want and you get great images, because don't misunderstand me, it spreads out a lot. A lot of people think it's a very narrow light source, and it was never designed for that. It was designed to light a whole model, but with a very small surface, and as you can see here, it works. Okay, so let's say that we're done with this and we want something a little bit more interesting, because hey, this is nice, but let's up the ante a little bit. So we're going to turn this one off.
Also my sunglasses off?
No, I would keep those on for now, because you're not going to like me after this one, I think. Annewiek, could you please put the magnetic system on this one? And then on this one, I want a blue gel. So I'm going to give this one to Annewiek. She will turn it into a magnetic system. And I will shoot with something else for now. So let's move this out of the way. So I'm going to pick our G-Coda GT250. And while Annewiek is preparing the 200. Now the 250 already has the magnetic system on board. The reason I'm using the 250 is very easy to explain. When you use a snoot and you use it on the 200, you will get a rectangular look on your image unless you use the diffusion panel that is delivered with the snoot. So that means that actually the 200 is more versatile when you're using a snoot, because now you can literally just give a narrow beam of light on your model. It's not really narrow, but you know what I mean. Or you can use it round, and round is of course much more space that you lit. In the case of today, I want that round quality of light. I want to make sure that we also see the, how do you call it, the necklace. I want to make sure that we also see the bra with the points. So although I'm going to use harsh light, I still wanted to spread out a little bit more. So that's why we're using the round strobe instead of the rectangular one. So in this case, Annewiek, could you, oh, you already did it. Great, she's fast. Okay, so let's set this one up. Now for the snoot, I'm going to do really close to the model. I mean straight on the model. So I'm not going to do it from the sides. Oh nee, zometeen. Yep. Now of course it would help if I have a snoot. That's the nice thing about the rogue material. It's so light, it just flew up to me. I just called, I wish I had a snoot, and whoop, there it was. I wish I had a lot of money. See? No rogue, no fun.
I can throw some money at you.
You can throw some money at me. Do I have to strip for it, or? Annewiek, we're live. You can't do that. Oh. My wife. Okay, in this case, follow the line of the light. In this case, let's follow that. I think that's okay. Now, when we don't have a lot of studio lights on, of course, you can see the modeling light. It's a little bit hard at the moment, but there's a trick. Turn on the modeling light. Aim it where you think it is, and then turn it off again. It's not bright, but it's enough.
We saw it.
Yep. And that's with all the studio lighting on. Imagine that. Oh, remote.
Forgot to turn it on.
Yep. Turn it on and off again. 4.06. Okay, that's F4 and 2 clicks. In this case, we're going to give this one a little bit more. So that should now be a little bit closer. 5.6. Okay. First image. Straight on our model. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be fun. So when I look at this image, I go like, okay, this is interesting. This is nice. But I like it a little bit more daring. Okay, so let's do it from the side. Because although the light is straight on my model, I can still move around myself. Ah, there we go. This is more interesting because now I'm getting more depth. But I still think there is a little bit too much light on the chest and not on the face. So this is why boom stands are awesome. Just change the angle slightly. That's better. Okay, let's choose from this side. Okay, can you put on the hat? Did you bring a hat? Yes, you did. Isn't that cool? Girl, I don't know what you've been doing this weekend, but that's cool. I think she's a little bit of a party animal. Chin down just a little bit. I'm going to choose a slightly higher angle shooting down because I want to get that head in. But as you can see now, it's too dark. It's too dark. We want more light on our model. But I don't want to lose that intensity of that strobe. And this is a trick you've seen me done many, many times. So I'm going to do it again because it's just so freaking awesome. You lower your strobe to the lowest possible setting next to your main light source. And in this case, I'm going to place it slightly from the side. I'm going to do it all the way down. I know there's no strobe on it anyway. It's not like my pills are dead. I know. Don't laugh at me. Oké, mag ik even omnidirectional dome? Without the grid. There we go. Put the omnidirectional dome on. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one as my fill light. Still need sunglasses. I love the sunglasses, don't you?
Yeah.
You can take them off in a moment, but for now, they're awesome. Okay, so the blue light, what it does, it spreads out over the studio, nothing more. So I'm just going to aim it like this. I'm going to aim it as high up as possible. And because of the omnidirectional dome, it just spreads out. So I don't know the power setting at the moment. 1/16, it's probably too little. Just give it a little bit more. There we go. And that one I will just raise and lower if I see needed. And that's actually already pretty cool. As you can see now, this is a totally different look. Can you step a few millimeters? There we go, that's already enough. It's not a full body shot, but I can try. No, that doesn't work. Just do 3/4. There we go, I love it. Oops, I have to adjust my settings. Sorry, I was on F4. It should be 5.6. As you can see, one side is blue, one side isn't. So we don't want that. And that's why, well, look at the direction of the lighting. It's always smart when you do something like this. And this is where the omnidirectional dome comes in really nice. Lower your strobe to the same angle as your main light. So let's do that. I'm going to go here. And we're going to go here. Now the power of the omnidirectional light source dictates that the light will go everywhere, right? But it doesn't have to be. Because thanks to my grip, I can literally just position it in every single location I want. So now it's under the same angle.
So many options.
As my light. It's incredible, right? Mm-hmm. But now I have to shoot it. And now we have a nice and proper distribution of our blue light. And our remote control. Oh, I love this. Claudia, you're gonna love these shots. These are so vibrant and funny. This makes me forget the flu. Okay, now without the glasses. And let's just give it a little bit more of that blue. There we go. Nice. Do remember, so without glasses, to tilt your head just slightly up. And when we want more of that head in, as you can see here, now I'm losing the head. And that's when I'm going to start shooting from a slightly higher angle. And it gives me such a beautiful look, because now, as you can see, I'm also starting to include that blue light. So I'm getting that nice lens flare from the blue light in. It gives me a totally different look again. I really like this. Nice. Or, if you don't want that, make sure that your camera is pointed slightly in front of that light. And there we go. Now we just have to fill again. Or if you want it just from the side, take off your sun hood. Make sure you have a nice filter on there, of course, that helps. And there we go. So now we have it on one side again. I hope you can see that on YouTube. And otherwise, just shoot it as it was intended to. And that's from a lower angle. And of course with the sun hood connected again. Chin down slightly. Nice. And the final ones. I think I'm gonna shoot one from here. Oh, love that. Maybe from the side. My last is never my last, to be honest. As you can see now I'm running into a problem because I can see my studio. Now in Photoshop you can of course take this out, but what if I shoot it from the other angle? Because that's where our backdrop actually continues. So can you look that way? Perfect. Because now I'm using two backdrops. One of course the main backdrop, and the other one just extends. Ooh, this is nice. The shadow is a little bit harsh. I'm going to ask my model to look a little bit more forward. And that way, as you can see, yes, oh, this is going to be awesome. There we go, slightly lower angle. Okay, other hand also in the frame. Yeah, that one. The other one, yes. Awesome. Okay, final one. Thank you so very much. You are a champion. Okay, I'm gonna leave the camera here. So, and we didn't have any dropouts today, Anouk? No. I don't think so, right? No. That's great. Okay, so when I go through those images, very quickly, let me disengage. Mm-hmm. So let me first say photo review displays and windows, no external display. Then close Cascable and start it again. This is very nice for you guys, by the way, if you're into stuff like Cascable. Let me first make myself a little bit smaller and Cascable a little bit bigger. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Now, the nice thing about Cascable is you have this menu up here. And you can literally say display and windows. Now, if you don't want your customers to see everything that you're doing, like, hey, all the film rolls and on the iPad and whatnot more, you can set it on dedicated display. So whatever you do, if you need to go into Lightroom very quickly, or you need to check your email, or your messages come in and you don't want your client to see that, use a dedicated display. And that's what you've been seeing all this episode. Very simple, you only see the picture, and that comes in and that's full screen. The nice thing is also when you use a dedicated screen, it doesn't create that 4:3. It really narrows it totally up. So that's awesome. Okay, when I look at the pictures and you start out, let me close this down. Where did we start out? We started out with something like this. You can see that it's really nice, but it's dark, you know, it's cool, but too dark. And then you start experimenting with it, and one of the things you can do, of course, is open up those shadows in Lightroom. The problem with Lightroom is that if you open up those shadows, you can introduce noise. If you open up those shadows, it also starts to create shadows in the face that are a little bit lighter. That's something we don't always want. Sometimes we want that really nice look. Frank, you can always use masking. Yeah, that's fun, but I also like to record music. I like to spend family time. I like to play Call of Duty. I don't have time to do masking all the time. It has to be done in the studio for the very simple reason, if I do it on location, I don't need masking. I don't need all that stuff in Photoshop. I just shoot it and it's there. So what we started to do is, of course, add some extra lighting. The problem when you set it up on one side is that only one side of the set will be lit, even with an omnidirectional dome, for the very simple reason light falls off over the distance, the inverse square law. As you can see here, the left side has a little bit of blue, the right side has a lot of blue. That's nice, that's cool, you don't have to change it. I actually love it here. But what if you want? Well, that's where we started to use that light. Let me see, a little bit more in the middle, like here. As you can see here, now it's in the middle. Let me drink something. Now it's more in the middle, and you could create this. If you look arrogant, it gives me that really big Marilyn Manson feel. You know what I mean? When you look too happy, it's more like outgoing and fun.
Yeah.
But when you have that arrogant look, it's almost like Marilyn Manson. I think when you make it a little bit black and white, certain colors more, you have that grungy look.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, really powerful, but also fun. Like when you go here, this is party time. This is so cool. But when you go here, this is more oomph. And that's a nice thing, you know, when you look for models, you can always look for models that look great and that are perfect. And Claudia, of course, is a very handsome model, but it isn't the most important thing. What's important with models is if they can act. And it sounds weird, but photography is acting on 1/10,000th of a second. If the expression is slightly off, that's okay. But if she nails the expression over and over again, and of course with Claudia also, you have some shots that suck. That's normal, that's totally fine. But when she hits it, it's really well. And that's what I look for in a model. Of course, she has to be pretty because, well, we want to make great images, right? But what is pretty? That's totally different for everybody. What I love in my model is pretty in the form of lines, jaw lines. Does it react great to the lighting? But everything else is expression. I only want models that are able to literally look in the camera and go from arrogant to fun, to angry, to sad. Because you need all those micro expressions in your photo shoots. And sometimes it's literally a micro expression. As you can see here, some images are great, but when she nails it, it's perfect. Look at that, for example. This is awesome. You can't coach this. Like, okay, look, like what? This is just, look at all the expressions she goes through just in a live broadcast. So with cameras on you, with a photographer that's explaining stuff, every single shot is awesome. This is what you look for in a model. Oh, she's still here. It actually sucks, you know. Models really have to do more. Sorry, I didn't know you were still there. So great. I love the blue in the images. And here I started to experiment a little bit with the lighting instead of aiming straight at the model, also getting it into the camera lens. Okay, so when we go back to the first setup, as you can see the difference, bright light source large light sources are awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. But when you go to the more final images, to the images in the end, look at that. That's way more interesting for me. It really pinpoints that model out. Now, that's not a perfect shot. In all honesty, when I would have shot this and I would have had time, I would probably have a little bit more light on the right side of this frame. I think this is too bright. That one should be a little bit brighter. But hey, that's something that you do during a live shoot, and I didn't have any monitor, so I just had to look on the iPad. That's the thing I would change, a little bit more brightness on there. Okay, yeah, that I can do in Photoshop without any problem. That's no problem at all. So in the backdrop, we can always raise it, and if there's a little bit of noise there, we can just take it out with, for example, Lightroom or Topaz Photo AI. That works great. I do have something that I wanted to tell you guys, and this is actually Anna Week's fault, so there we go. Hey guys, Frank here, welcome in our studio. Today we're working on a great set with zebras. Anyway, if you want to be updated on everything that we do concerning tutorials and new videos, of course, new products, or maybe interesting workshops in your area, or if you just love to be inspired, well, subscribe to our newsletter. I will leave the link here, or whatever media we're using. So follow that link. We will have a Dutch one and an English one. They're totally new, so if you're already subscribed to our newsletter, do it again, because the old one we won't be using anymore. Now, like you guys, we hate spam. So that means that we don't send out the newsletter unless we have something really interesting to tell you guys. And as mentioned before, every newsletter has an inspirational tip or a little video. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. And the link, well, you find them anywhere, somewhere there, or maybe down below the video. Anyway, wherever the link is, click it and subscribe. Thank you so very much. See you again. Bye, guys. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and so sorry for all the coughing. We do have some important news to share. Black Friday is coming up, and we thought it would be fun to do one every day. So that means starting next week, Anna Week?
No.
Starting
Week after that.
Oh, is it still that far off? Because you already see companies doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also see companies already doing Christmas while we still have Sinterklaas. So we are starting the week of Black Friday. We're going to do a new offer every single day. Now, don't worry if you miss one of the offers. We're going to do it on my website. So that means we're going to create a page called Black Friday. The first day, the first offer is there. If you check into the second day, the second offer will be behind the first one. If you check in the third day, etc., we will build it up. And I can already tell you on Friday, if you're in the Netherlands or Belgium, that one is really going to be interesting because we're going to do a lot of we're going to give you a lot of discounts for the workshops in our studio. Can we already tell the discounts because then people can already email it?
Yeah.
We're going to do 2 workshops or 3 workshops?
3 workshops for only 300 euros.
Are you nuts?
Yeah.
One moment. Are you nuts? How can you do that?
That's only from Black Friday till
Oh, this is
Cyber
only
Monday.
video. It doesn't mute the audio.
It's only once a year.
Yeah, it's once a year. It's because it's Black Friday. We're going to do 3 workshops for 300 euros. So that's 100 euros per workshop. That's a 50% off. Now, I do want to warn you guys. And this is something that I hear a lot. And I think Ad is also looking. And Ad asked me this morning. And this is why I actually reminded to tell you guys. During Black Friday, you will get a lot of offers. And most of those offers are awesome. Those are great. You will also find a lot of offers for example, preset packs. This is something I really want you to think about. If you find a preset pack with 100% discount or 99% discount, you see them often like normally €2.99, now only 19 euros. One, they probably will never sell that preset pack for €2.99. A preset pack is nothing more than something you create in Lightroom. It's not a plugin, it's not Photo AI, it's not a Topaz Gigapixel, it's not DxO, it's not, no. It is a preset that you create in Lightroom. Everything that is in that preset pack, in 99.999% of the cases, you can create yourself. We also offer preset pack for Lightroom and for other software. Now you can find our preset packs at, let me just do that really fast, at our shop. Now we're not going to give you any discounts like that on our preset packs. We just sell them for 10 euros or 15 euros. You get about 100 presets or 50 presets or 200, I don't know, it varies per pack. The nice thing about it, and I always tell people this, it's a cutaway. How do you call it? You cut the corners. In other words, you find something that you like, you adjust it to your liking, and you save it as your own preset. Presets packs are no magic. So with Black Friday, be a little bit careful about those offers. A lot of people just go, they were normally €2.99, now only 10 euros. They will never sell it for €2.99. It's only €2.99 at Black Friday, or the rest of the year they don't sell, or they just give it away for 10 euros. Now, software, of course, that's where Black Friday is awesome. So make sure you check out all your favorite manufacturers because during Black Friday, there are a lot of great deals. I'm already looking for some guitar stuff, of course. I didn't find anything, honey. I'm so sorry. I did find some really awesome stuff. So overall, Black Friday, check out our blog, but also something else. One of the things that you learn in commercial businesses is never build your company on borrowed land that's from somebody else. Now, as you guys know, we are very active on social media. We have YouTube, we have LinkedIn, Twitter, X. We have all the other stuff, Threads, Facebook pages. But the most important thing is where we actually don't see a lot of visitors. That's our main website. Please visit our main website for the very simple reason. At least once or twice a week, we upload there interesting articles. How about a review on the new MacBook Pro screen? How about blogs on photography? How about reviews for video gear? It's all on frankdorov.com, the blog version. So make sure you check that out. And again, we update that at least once a week, but mostly 2, 3, 4 times a week. So make sure you check it out. We recently did a whole series on color evokes emotion, how do you calibrate your monitor, literally from what is color, how does it work, to how do I calibrate it. I think it's 4 or 5 articles. So make sure you check out our website. Anything else? The next digital classroom will probably be squeezed in between and will be the one about travel and street photography. The only problem is I have to get my voice back for 100% because that's a 2-hour seminar. And I don't want to do that with a voice like this because I'm already struggling at the moment. Do we need something else in a week?
Yes.
The price, if you want to win something like this, if you don't want to win, why not? Display 123 from Calibrite. Send me, if you are in the Netherlands or Belgium, send me an image where you go like, this really needs a color analyzer because look at those colors. And again, I don't mean a bad picture because bad pictures won't win. It has to be an awesome picture, but I have to see in that picture, you really need a color analyzer. And if you already have a color analyzer, you can still compete, you can still win, and maybe give it to somebody that starts out with photography. And it is so annoying that they always tell you, you don't need to calibrate your monitor, you just do it by hand. No, you don't. You need a professional calibration device. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people, yes, I calibrated my monitor, and it looks like crap. And I go like, how did you calibrate your monitor? And they go like, yeah, I went up to Apple. Oh yeah, stop, you did those sliders until all those squares looked right? Yeah. I said, what's your reference? And how about your gamma curve? How about your brightness? How about your contrast? How about your CMS, color management system? How about your color spaces? And did you know, by the way, with Apple, you also have to disable True Tone during the calibration? If you didn't know that, why didn't you visit my blog? I explained that this week for you guys. So check out the blog. And a week you also had something else?
Maybe I should have a microphone, Frank.
Maybe you should have a microphone.
Easy.
Let me just give you a microphone.
Let's try.
Let's try. Let's give Anna Week a microphone.
Hello, anybody out there? Is it working, Frank?
Yes, it is.
Well, two things. We are working on a new agenda for the workshop, especially for Dutch people. It's online now. frankdorhoff.com/A from Amsterdam. And the other thing is November 23 is the workshop with Styling and Nadine.
That one is awesome.
Nadine is pregnant, so we're going to do at least one pregnancy shoot.
What are you going to do in between? Take the baby out and store it somewhere in the
No.
freezer?
We never had any model in a workshop
Listen,
who was
You
pregnant.
say we're going to do one setup when she's pregnant. What are you going to do the rest of the setups?
Well, she will bring her intern, Fleur, and she's going to be modeling for the rest of the day.
I think we're going to do at least 2 sets with Nadine and 1 set with
Well,
her.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but
we
it's gonna
have
be
like
awesome.
2 seats left. So if you're interested, don't wait. And you can use your voucher if you like.
yeah, we have 2 seats left, so use the voucher.
Why are you repeating me?
I don't know, because I'm not used to you having a microphone.
Well, another thing, the Black Friday workshop discount, you can choose whatever workshop you like in Emmeloord.
Yeah, so even next year or the year after.
Yeah, it's valid forever. So
We have some people that bought a 3 workshop ticket at a professional imaging 4 years ago.
yeah,
And they were really surprised that we still honor those.
of course.
For the very simple reason, you bought it at that time. You didn't do the workshop, so you still are, of course, liable for those workshops. Liable? Is that the right term? No. You are
I don't
still,
know.
of course, you can still use them for the
We're
workshop.
getting tired.
We're getting really tired. Okay, guys, so thank you so very
Thank
much
you
for
for
watching.
watching. See you
And
next
that's
time.
the nice thing about that Saramonic kit. When you have a guest, you just give him a microphone and that's it. So it just connected straight to my microphone and you can hear Anouk and you can hear me. Now, I don't know if the levels are even because we didn't look at that, but that's the nice thing about that setup.
Any questions?
Any questions except Claudia is awesome and a lot of people say that you're awesome.
She likes it.
Yeah, she likes that. So yeah, you are. Okay, thank you so very much for watching, guys. Sorry that my voice wasn't 100% and sometimes I did a little bit of a cough, but I think we still managed to do a full digital classroom, so that's awesome.